Thank you for tuning in to Behavior Resource and Advocacy Network's new series entitled Pathways to Bridging the Gap. With this series, our mission is to empower parents and caregivers with insights, strategies, and resources for student success. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Good morning. Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Pathways to Bridging the Gap series. I'm Kanisha Protho, owner of Behavior Resource and Advocacy Network, where we provide educational advocacy services for youth in schools with behavior or mental health challenges. With this series, our goal is to empower parents and caregivers with insights, strategies, and resources for student success. We do that by bringing in professionals from various aspects of the school setting to share their knowledge and expertise. Today, we have a great topic for you guys. We'll be discussing strategies for home support. And that means that we're going to go over practical tips and strategies that parents and caregivers can implement at home to reinforce learning and emotional support. And to help us discuss this topic, we have TJ with us. She is a behavior therapist with over 7 years of experience. So we are super excited, or I am super excited to have her knowledge and expertise with us. So thank you so much, TJ, for being with us today and sharing your time with us. So before we get started, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your role as a behavior therapist.
Hi, everybody. My name is TJ. Thank you so much, Kanisha, for having me on here. I love to always support the community and always help. So thank you for having me on. So like she said before, I'm a behavior therapist who has been in the field for up to 7 years. I do a multitude of things as far as training therapists. I do help with feeding therapy. I help with behavioral management for in-home and clinic. We also do parent trainings for our parents who are new and some that are still in the process that still need a lot of help because, behavior changes. So we're always there to help and be in the field of that. So I've been doing that for almost 7 years now. And I love what I do. I love children and I love to help and be out there to support.
Yes. And you just seem to have a natural, gift for what you were doing. Like before we were, talking before we recorded, I'm like, that is just such amazing work that you are doing. And so, of course, parents need to know, they need to hear these different things, right? These different topics. And so, just hopping into it, what do you think are some essential strategies that parents can use to create a supportive learning environment at home?
Well, for one, I always let me go ahead and say this because one of the things that when I'm talking to a parent and I am helping my BCBA do parent trainings, I always do my best. Truly enough, I encourage and I always tell them to first let's start out with getting out that negative conversation in your head. That's because it's most likely to our new parents who are just getting out of denial or who are just getting into the field. And everybody steps into new things, and when they don't understand something or it's new, we always get scared or we always roll into a role. But first thing I tell my parents, please, whatever negative thoughts you have of been around, thought of, let's throw that out the door. We always come into it with a positive mindset. And I always tell my parents that are in home that if you want babies to learn in a beautiful environment like that, let's create the environment. So I want you to learn in an aesthetic where I want you to be learning books, playing with puzzles, reading more, talking more. Then I'm going to set up the environment for that. You might have a desk in your room. You're going to have a lot of books. You're going to have a lot of coloring and actual coloring books and things like that because you want to be able to set them up for success. So
Yes.
start out with setting a baby up for success. I'm not going to put you in a space in my home where there's food everywhere and it's essentially just iPads and computers and those things for you because you'll gravitate towards those. Kids are literally like puzzles. They're individuals. They don't know these things. So if they say teach up a child in the way you want them to go, maybe all children are individuals. So you have to teach them as you go. You learn them to teach them. So I'm going to first put you in an area where I can help you. I'm going to put you around books if I want you to read. I'm going to put you around a lot of conversations and toys that talk and things that if I want you to be able to talk. So I'm going to set you up for success.
That is so good. And so I'm also thinking about too, like my daughter, she's 8, right? And so they're at that age, like you said, you don't want to always have like computers and laptops. I mean, they're beneficial, but like you said, if I want to make sure that you're gaining literacy skills, then we're gonna focus on books instead of tablets and electronics, right? And so it made me think about like when I'm taking her to school in the morning, a lot of times she likes to watch her tablet in the morning. Okay, fine, no problem. But when I pick her up in the afternoon, I'm starting to realize as soon as she gets in the car, "Mama, where's my
Asking for
tablet?"
He's asking for it. Mhm.
Well, how was your day first? And then I thought about it like, she can't use it if I don't give her access to it, you know? And if I want to, of course, increase again her literacy and her ability to have social emotional skills, right? And be able to interact with others, then that means I need to limit that time.
Mhm.
And so
Yes,
I
ma'am.
decided, okay, when I pick you up in the afternoon, we're not going to have any tablet. We're going to talk.
Right.
We are going to talk about how your day was first before we, get into, and homework is first before we, get into electronics. And so I really just love that you say like you have to set the environment up to what you want to see,
And
right?
a lot of parents don't, and this is with going without saying. Of course, every parent has to learn these things, but a lot of times that a lot of parents don't realize you have already set up a schedule for your baby. As you said, your 8-year-old was
Yeah,
having this strategy and this schedule. She's already going to get this. So now
yeah,
you've created that whole boundary and schedule for that. So now she's expecting it. But thing is, we have to create the environment and set up a different schedule. If you don't want your baby to come in the mornings and be like, "Hey, where's my iPad?" and you want them to say, "Hey, how are you?" Then
right.
create that environment. Set that up as a schedule. Some people set up schedules and not recognizing that they're doing it, which is no problem. We are all human. We're all human.
Yes,
We're all gonna do these things without knowing that we did them. If I give my baby
yes,
candy every morning, she's gonna expect candy every morning. It's a harmful schedule setting, which is
yes.
understandable. And I love how you was like, okay, I noticed this. Let me change this environment. Let's have a conversation first about your day. Then we could talk about the iPad.
Yes, yes. First things first, right? And I've
Yes.
noticed that too, like with like behavior, right? Or behavior training or behavior therapy, sometimes there can be pushback, of course, right? When you
Mhm.
are trying to gain new skills, right? Or you're trying to do something different. A lot of times there can be pushback, either from maybe the parent or from the child. And so that kind of brings me to my next question. So what activities do you feel can parents implement in order to help their child develop emotional regulation and resilience?
Well, that's another thing too, because a lot of babies they don't know what emotions are. So first things first, parents have to teach what emotions are so that they
Mhm.
can regulate them, they can understand what's going on. And so one thing I'm not gonna tell my baby is that I'm not gonna flow back with the same emotion. I'm gonna teach her the emotion she's having. So you have to start teaching happiness, teaching angriness, teaching sadness. You have to teach them these things, like identify that. I always tell my parents when a baby is going through an emotional like breakdown or an actual tantrum, you want to identify to them what they're doing. Regulate that emotion by teaching them what it is and then teaching them the appropriate way. And then I always tell my parents, do not match the energy of a child.
Mhm.
It is not for you to match that energy. It's for you to teach them what the energy is and what
Yeah,
the actual consequence and the benefit of it is. So I'm not going to match angry with angry. I'm not going to match a tantrum with tantrum. I'm going to start in calm. I'm going to listen to my baby and learn their actual behaviors. I'm going to sit there and watch. For instance, my baby goes into a tantrum because, like you said, your baby, she can't have her iPad anymore. So I'm going to pay attention to see what her actual behavior is. So let's see. Okay, we lost the iPad. She went into a full blown tantrum of throwing stuff, yelling at me. Of course, I'm going to just pay attention to actually look at that. I'm like, okay, because you lost this occurred. So let me teach you. Now you're having a tantrum. You're angry. I'm going to teach you what angry means. So
yeah,
now you're angry. So then that way you can verbalize, communicate with me. Mom, I'm angry. Now you know what it is. I can't expect a baby to be able to explain their emotions to me. They have to learn them first. So let's
mm,
help our children regulate their emotions by teaching them what they are. Teach them happiness. A lot of kids don't know what that is. Teach
right,
them excitement. Teach them anger. So let's start there first. Once you actually do that, then you can actually have them communicate. Like, how are you feeling? Then they'll be able to tell you their emotions to regulate that. Then match their energy with a positive and calm demeanor. A lot of us parents that we get overwhelmed, especially when we are caught off guard by something that's completely different. Of
yeah,
course, if I decide to give you candy and you throw a tantrum, and I'm gonna be overwhelmed because I'm like, I just gave you something nice and
yeah,
I don't understand what's causing this behavior, this emotion, this reaction.
yeah,
But then I have to regulate myself and be like, okay, don't get overwhelmed. Don't try to punish or give, typical like behavior tantrums with them. actually regulate and think about like, okay, why are you mad? Like,
Yeah.
let's teach me why you're mad so I can teach you what your actual response can be. And I know a lot of parents, they think to punish, they think to take away, they think to be overwhelmed, and it causes them to act out in the moment right then and there. And it causes them to have a demeanor where it's completely negative. And it's like, okay, we both acting out now.
And so what are we getting accomplished at this point? If you
At
up
this
here and I'm up
point,
here, we doing
now
this.
exactly, and it's all about something as small as candy, and it's like, okay,
Yes.
let me first teach you what you're going through. Let me teach you the emotions, because as a child, you can't expect to know this already. I'm gonna teach you right now. You're angry, and now you're having a tantrum. Instead, let's communicate with me. You can tell me, "Mommy, I'm angry." Okay, and I'll ask you from then, "Why are you angry?" Then you can tell me, "Because I don't want the candy. I don't want that particular candy." That simple little moment of actually learning what's going on and regulating that emotion has taught you right then how to transfer, instead of me being meeting your same level. Okay,
Yeah.
now I learned that you don't like this particular candy. So, okay, you can say you don't have to have it, or we can try another piece. It's something so simple, but
Yeah.
it happens in the switch of a moment, though.
Yeah. And
So
that
I
sounds like
always,
conflict. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
now I always tell my parents, do not mess the energy of a child.
Yeah.
You never know what a child is going through, especially children who don't know what their emotions are. You have to first learn them and teach them what their emotions are so that they can be able to communicate and explain. And that is the biggest thing that I deal with as a behavior therapist. A lot of parents are in denial that their children have emotions, that their
Mm.
children have a right to feel these ways. But it's like, you will never know until you ask, until you talk, until you teach them to regulate those things. And it can be something that simple.
Yes, and that to me also sounds like conflict resolution. Like they're
Hmm.
learning that, right? They're learning that from their parents. And so I'm thinking like as you're talking that that could even be translated to like relationships with their friends, right? Their peers and how to like again emotionally like regulate. And it's so fun like you I feel like you hit the nail on the head because there've been times where like in my career I've done like trainings for schools and school districts and sometimes I say like well sometimes kids don't know how to verbalize what they're feeling
Hmm.
but instead or in
Hmm.
turn they are internalizing how they feel and it comes out as a tantrum or some form of like behavior but from what you're saying and I agree 100% we have to as the adults learn or we have to teach them what to say when they are feeling these certain emotions so instead of saying they can't children can't verbalize that's not true we have to teach them right as the parents and as the caregivers on
Right.
what to say based on their
Right.
emotions and teaching them what those emotions are and I can imagine like the more parents and caregivers practice that the
Yes.
better the kids will become and saying you know
Yes.
what I am mad or I am and then that also brings to what you said. Sometimes parents don't realize too that kids have a right to be angry or frustrated because I have seen that a lot. Like you a kid, what you mad about? What
Right.
can you possibly be
That is
mad about? Well,
saying.
there's a
That
few
is the saying.
they can be upset about, and I feel like in this day and age, kids are dealing with things we did not deal with in
Have
school,
to do. Right.
So there's so many things that they can be upset about or they can be mad about. And I remember too, like just having different conversations with my child. And there will be times where I'm asking, I can see it all on her face, her body, everything,
Hmm.
something's wrong. And I'll ask
Hmm.
her, like, "Babe, what's wrong? Nothing. No, no, no. We're not going to do
Yes.
that. We are giving
Yes.
words to what's a problem. Then I go over and I usually give her like what I'm seeing. Well, you know how you just kind of like sat down like that and you kind of plopped down like you were upset. And normally, you'll get a snack or whatever, but you don't want to, you just went straight to sit down. That tells me something's wrong. So I'm
Yes.
observing what you're doing. And if you tell me nothing, that leaves me with my assumptions. And that's usually
Yes.
how I get her to talk.
Well,
Because I'm like, if you leave me with my assumption, I'm going to assume that you're upset about XYZ. Now, you don't want mommy to assume, right? And then
right.
she'll look at me like,
Right.
okay, so what's up? Like, talk to me, tell
Another
me.
I love that you just said that, because
Yeah,
you just strategize in
yeah,
different ways to be able to get your baby to open up and tell you
yeah,
what she is feeling through you. A lot of that's a beautiful strategy parents can use in the
yes,
moment of, I also have to teach her the verbal words to tell me what's going on emotionally, because a lot of kids
yes,
can't emotionally explain these things. So
yeah,
in the midst of that, let's strategize. Okay, I see it all over you. I know something is wrong,
Yeah.
but you don't want to tell me, which is
Yeah.
going to lead me to get overwhelmed and my thoughts and my whole process. Not all parents are like you. They come out and actually work to actually get their child to open up. Some parents get mad. Some
Mhm.
parents get attitude. Some parents match the energy. Well, whatever. You'll tell me when you're ready. And it's like, mommy, I don't know how to tell you. They
Yeah.
don't realize some parents, not every baby is the same. Not
Yeah.
everybody can do that. But a beautiful strategy you just said was strategically, you know what, let's match the energy. Okay, something's wrong. I can tell it. Let me tell you a story. I was one time, and a lot of parents don't realize that when something is happening in the moment with you and you verbalize it and you show that you've gotten through it, your children learn that effect. They
Mm.
learn to cope with that
Mhm.
and take that with them. We are our first teachers to our children.
Yes.
We are the very
Yes.
first teachers. They learn from us, whether it's in the house, whether it's in the bathroom. We don't realize that we're teaching and aesthetic lessons that they take outside socially.
Yes.
So let
Yes.
me let me use myself as the example, put myself in the baby shoes and use myself as an example strategically, and let's give them a story. Hey, I know something's wrong, but let mommy tell you a story. I was one day going through this so and so same situation, and I was upset, which you're telling an emotion. I was
Mhm.
angry, but I didn't know how to explain this to the person that was with me. And in that moment, you done already taught your baby that, okay, I know I'm mad, but I don't know how to tell them that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what to tell them. And then you also told them that how you're feeling, you have no wrong emotion. You feel this way because it's how you feel.
Yeah.
A lot of kids always think, I don't have a right to feel this way. You don't have a right. There's nothing wrong with you. You ain't went through this. You ain't went through that. Parents, they are children. Don't expect them to go through the same expectations you did when you were a child. It
Yeah.
is completely different nowadays.
Yes.
So
Yes.
start by strategically teaching them proper ways to open up to you and talk to you. Put yourself in the example, put yourself in the actual foot of the child in a moment, because you never know what inside is happening. And I'm around a lot of babies who can't vocalize, visualize, verbalize, or physically tell you the emotion that they're going through.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it makes it harder for the parent, because you have to be able to listen and want to learn that about your child.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the first step. And I love that you strategically did that with your daughter, because a lot of parents, like I said, they get mad. They go through that first. You don't have a right to be mad. Ain't nothing wrong with you. You're going to be all right. And
Yeah.
it's like, when you were back in the day taught those things,
Yeah.
these children are not the same.
No, no, they are not. And then realizing too that, parents and caregivers go through so much, like on a daily basis. Like a lot of us are, working full time and, we're wearing 10,000 different hats, right? And so the grind doesn't stop like when we get home, and so there's all
Right.
these different, wide variety of emotions that parents can be feeling. And so that's a really good point too for our next question. So what role family interactions play in developing social skills, and how can parents enhance those interactions?
Well, let me first say one thing I always tell parents who are new to the field, new to behaviors, things like that, and don't emotionally know how to to deal with them. I always tell them, we can't choose our families. We can't choose who we are and what's going to happen within the next few years. One thing about it is, don't start negative, start positive, because every behavior is a new behavior to somebody. So when you walk in here and your baby is going through tantrums and the moment, it's like, okay, but remember, everybody is human. And one thing about it is, you have to learn yourself and your child. See the positive interaction by creating it. Take away the negative
Yes.
interactions. So for instance, to help out with emotional overwhelming, and it helps you to be triggered, you want to make sure you respond with the appropriate way, just
Yes.
not on impulse. That's what a lot of people do. They immediately respond to a tantrum with a tantrum. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, let's create a positive interaction with, like, hey, you're having a tantrum right now. I know that you're mad, but let's take a moment to breathe, respond with calmness,
Mm.
respond. And don't respond off immediate impulse, because one thing about it is, you say something, you hear a child say a bad word, you immediately turn to, like, are you cussing? Like, are you saying
Yeah.
these things? And it's like,
Yeah.
hey, you're acknowledging the bad behavior.
Right.
How about we say, hey, instead of saying that word, let's say this. I understand
Yes.
you're mad, but I got a different word that can help you express
Yes.
that. Things like that. And then on top of that, let's just go ahead and get into the truth
Mhm.
of it all. Like you said, a lot of parents wear a lot of different hats. They wear
Yes.
a lot of different shoulders. They have a lot of different, things to do throughout the day.
Yes.
We only got everybody got the same amount of hours. It's how you choose to use your hours. If I only got 1 hour with my baby a day, I'm gonna make sure during that hour that I am talking about her emotions. I'm gonna make sure I'm asking her questions. I'm gonna make sure I'm paying attention and learning my baby during that moment. And I'm also gonna create a positive interaction with her so that she talks back with me for positivity, because that's the way I want to create her to go out in the world. Be
Yes.
positive and have a good social interaction with everybody. The same way you do come home for that 1 hour with mommy. You
Yes.
know, anytime you get that moment to have and create that space, a lot of parents don't realize positive interactions can go far as you just taking your baby out to the park.
Yes. Yes.
That helps create positive interactions with you and socially. Because now I'm taking you
Mhm.
to the park, I'm taking you to the environment where it's beautiful, it's pretty. It's going to
Mhm.
put you in a very nice, positive emotion. And then it creates us playing together. It creates us getting a bond, building a
Yeah.
relationship with each other in a very nice way. All the parents, I'm too tired to go out here and play. I'm too tired to do this. I
Mhm.
got 1 hour with my baby. I'm going to make sure during this one time and this space that I have with her, that it's
Yeah.
gonna be a positive reenaction. So if she wanna go slide down the slide, well, come on, baby, we finna all go slide and play, which
Yeah.
creates her to be comfortable out in the world too, which helps her socially.
Yes.
Like it
Yes.
helps us. And then on top of that, that's another thing too. Being positive and having great family bond relationships and interaction creates a very good social positivity way for another child to come in. We all
Yes.
want our babies to be socially interactive with other people. But a
Yes.
lot of people don't realize that emotional shyness is a big factor in children.
Mhm.
And the moment
Mhm.
that you don't have that positive interaction with your baby, how you expect another child to have that positive interaction with them? That's
Yeah.
why I said
Yeah.
teach the positive interactions, because I want my baby to be out here to go out here and socially play with other kids and
Right.
not have shyness, not have these tantrums, not just be aggressive to them. Then it starts with us. So parents,
Right.
little things like strategies of like, let's read a book. Like, right, for instance, every night before my baby goes to bed, we don't watch TV. We read a book.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
created her socially to learn. So when she
Yeah.
goes to other people's houses, she takes books with her.
Mhm.
And so she incorporates the friends, like, hey, let's read a book. Let's
Yeah.
all read a book together. That's something she done learned at home that she's taken out into the world socially to a whole nother friend. And a lot of people don't realize how big something simple like that is. My
Yeah.
baby is now potty trained and she's 2, but she's realized that the positivity of it is that we do a potty dance after every time she goes pee pee
Yeah.
in the potty. So
Yeah.
creating that, so when she goes to my sister's house, she dancing if her cousins pee peeing in the potty. And they looking at her like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm excited. I'm happy. This is a
Right.
great thing. So
Right.
now she's done taught all of them. It's exciting to go pee. It's like,
Yes.
yes. So now
Yes.
everybody dancing, we all excited, we is happily create those positive interactions with you with something so small. Use the time to value and be positive with your baby, because interactions are important. You want them
Yes.
to socially and positively interact with you. Okay, you have to teach them that, use the strategies, and then they'll take that socially out to somewhere else. Something so simple as dancing while they're learning to potty train is huge, because now you got
Yes.
6 more kids you never know dancing because they all peeing in the potty.
Yes. Yes. The domino effect, right?
Yes, literally, completely take it out in the
Yes.
world. And I always,
Yes.
one thing I will tell, I usually do start. I love that you said the domino effect. It's an 80-20 rule too, as far as parenting and training with kids and too. 80% positivity and 20% of actually learning capability of listening to what a child is going through negatively.
Mm.
You always, but more than that, you always match 80%. It's always going to be a positive interaction with you. Now,
Yeah.
20% may be the lower function of the negative interaction, but I'll learn from that 80% what's going on 20% more.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And it sounds like too, like with what you're saying is that it starts from us, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
starts with how we are interacting with our children. It's almost like they are, and regardless of whether they are biological children or not. So our children, or maybe you're a foster parent, or you're an aunt or an uncle taking care of, your niece or nephew for whatever reason. So, but it all starts from us, right?
Right.
That primary caregiver. So it's like our children are like a mirror, if you will, based
Yes.
on how we
Yes.
are reacting and responding
Yes.
to them. They start to reflect those same exact interactions that we are pouring into them. And I think
Absolutely.
that that's where it starts, right? Because like how we were saying, like parents and caregivers have so many different things they have going on. When we aren't able to just, kind of just stop and think that this is a child, and regardless of whether I had a bad day or not, they had nothing to do with that. So I don't
Right.
want to, like, project like negative, because
That
you've been
energy
saying that a
on
lot.
absolutely.
Positive. It has to be
Yes.
positive interaction. And I feel that if you can't do that, because I've been in those moments too, if you can't really provide that positive interaction, remove yourself. I've done that so many times. Like, you know what, babe? I'm going
Absolutely.
upstairs. Like, I
Absolutely.
just can't. I need
Absolutely.
to take a moment because this is just not, this isn't going well. And I feel like I'm going to say
Absolutely.
something that I can't, you know what I mean? That I can't take back
Absolutely.
or go. I can't, I can't take it away. I can't take it back. And I know that because kids are sponges, they are absorbing
Yes.
everything. There have been
Yes.
so many times where I was in a bad mood, and my baby thought it was because of her. Did I do
Mhm.
something? I'm like,
Mhm.
oh no, not
Mhm.
at all. It's just, and I try not to go too far, in depth, but it's just like, that has nothing to do with you, sweetheart. That's something totally different at, mommy's, job, or what have you. And so I think that if parents and caregivers don't take away anything, I hope they take away a lot, but that seems to be the main thing, is that positive. You want to focus in. You can't do nothing else. Like, this has been a horrible day today. We are going to at least
Right.
find the
Right.
positive interaction, whether it is through reading a book, or we're going
Yes.
to I don't know,
Dance.
listen to
Singing.
dance or listen to something before we go to
Anything.
bed, to like yoga or something. We're going to do something
Yes.
positive before the end of the day. And so I love that you really focus in on that. Get the negative thoughts and feelings out. When we are interacting with our babies as it relates to trying to, of course, get positive behavior, we have to instill in them positive interaction. So,
I use that because truly enough, in our field, when people come talk to therapists, behavior
yeah,
therapists, the first thing, parents always start with is the behavior.
yeah,
I rarely get where a parent is starting with, well, my baby is exciting. She's this.
yeah,
I
yeah,
never start with the positive. So
yeah,
when they always think that in our roles, in our actual occupations, they're supposed to tell us what they want to be fixed. But it's like, okay, mom, dad, you're teaching me about you as well too. Teach me about what you want to see, what you want to do, but teach me about what you're doing. And parents don't realize that, like you said, it starts with us. So, if I want my baby to be out here socially saying hi to everybody, I have to start saying hi. I don't want to
yeah,
be negative and walking past people and not speaking, because
yeah.
kids are like squids. They suck onto their parents, and they
Mm,
learn every single emotion that you teach them. They learn how to be mean. They learn how to not speak to somebody that's walking by. They learn to look at them and roll their eyes. They learn to have this emotion and a tone to them voice. And tone is big when it comes
yes,
to, see, I always
yes,
tell my parents, one thing about it is you have to, like, certain tones are for certain energies and certain emotions. I'm not
yes,
gonna have this aggressive emotion with my baby if she's all sad and sorrow. I'm not gonna do that. So everything about us sets a tone. And that, like I said, they're squids, so they're gonna suck onto that. So when I started and was upset, like you said, you thought you was having a bad day, you brought that whole energy home. So then it
hmm,
transferred to your baby. So
yes,
she's already a squeeze sucking on you. So she's trying to find the energy from you to grasp
yes,
and figure out how today is going. So even
yes,
if I am mad, even if I did have a bad day, my daughter will not know that, because she's gonna think mommy had a great day. I have positive energy to give her. I want to at least be able to give the energy that I do want her to pertain.
yeah,
I'm not gonna start with negative energy and have an attitude on my face. And then, like you
mhm,
said, it's not them baby's fault. It's
yeah,
not them baby's fault. You know,
yes,
and a lot of parents, instead of wanting to blame the behaviors, they don't realize they're blaming the kids. You're
mhm,
focusing all this energy on the negative behavior, and
yeah,
that 80% of positive behavior is not getting recognized. It's
mm,
like, hey, your baby learned how to say their name, but you're focusing on the fact that he also had an hour tantrum. So you're more focused on the hour tantrum than the fact that he learned something huge of saying his name. And I stay having to use those rectifications of letting parents know, hey, you're focusing on different things. Let's focus on these, because a lot of kids that I'm around and work with can't speak at all. They don't know how to talk. They don't know how to physically, since some of them can't even give me eye contact, but you're focusing on the fact that he was rolling around for an hour. Be grateful he can roll around for an hour because a lot of
Mhm.
babies can't do that, I know.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it's always, I hate that I have to do that, but that breaks the barrier of the parents,
Yeah.
and it puts them back into the mindset of, hey, okay, let's take this negative side off of me, because she's right, a lot of kids can't do these things. Let's focus on what my baby is grateful for, what it can do, because if I'm always negative and talking about, yo, my baby always having this tantrum, they always, ooh, I already know this is going to happen with them, good lord, but I ain't said not one time what my baby is positively can do.
Mhm.
Then of course my child, that's twig, that's gonna suck onto that, always speaking the negative first instead of the positive things. And it's like, hey, you don't realize that that baby is watching you. That baby
Yeah.
is paying attention to you. And a
Yeah.
lot of us parents don't realize the small things that we doing in the back while I'm over here mad because I done had a bad day all day. And now my baby in the back behind me thinking that it's her fault.
Yeah. And had nothing to do with her, right?
To do with her. Didn't start with her, didn't end, but it's ending with her.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that I say a lot, like as an educational advocate, is that like schools and home like should be a partnership, right? Like we're
Mhm.
on the same team, we're fighting the same
Absolutely.
battle. We have to be, we're teammates, right? In this
Hmm.
thing. And so of course what is being learned at school, parents want to know like how can I reinforce that at home and vice versa, right? And so what do you think are some ways that parents can collaborate with school for kids that are in school to reinforce learning at home?
So one thing that, and I love this because a lot of the time, I'll get a lot of great progress. I was telling you earlier that one of my clients was having a feeding disability at home. And one of the solutions, the parents was just thinking, oh, we're gonna let the schools and we're gonna let the clinics handle that, but they're gonna get my baby together. And it's like, hey, we're all together in this team. And
Yes.
so truly, she told me the problem of what she was saying. She was like, I can't do that. I
Mm,
can't do what you guys do. And I told her one of my biggest reasons of why I am so successful and why I have the greatest progress is because I will pair myself with anybody around me that's willing to learn and willing to follow through with the instruction of what we are doing and what the school is doing. A thing about us is that a lot of parents come tell us like what they did wrong at school, but they never tell us what the teachers or people have tried. So I always was like, okay, for your parent trainings, because we have parent trainings when it comes to behavior therapy.
that's
And we
good.
have to, in that moment, I always have to make sure my parents understand, like, hey, when you come to parent training, I'm teaching and showing you these things so that you can do these at home. But you
Yeah.
have to make sure you're ready to do them and that you want to.
Mhm.
Like if you come with me, because I am very serious about this, it actually works. I am a whole behavior therapist. My baby does not have any type of form of disability, but I do all this good work at home with her too.
Mhm.
So if you're willing to work and learn these things, then come on. I will pair myself. I will sit right next to you as I teach you the same things that I do with your baby at school, at home. I will tell you, like, okay, give me the spot of where you're having these behaviors at. Let's go through the whole momentum. I pair myself with every parent. I pair myself with every teacher, with every therapist, with every advocate that is willing to learn these procedures and follow through with them. Because what you do, a lot of children do at school, they don't do at home. They don't
Mhm.
have access to the iPad all day at school. They barely have them, you
Right.
know? So of course you're gonna see less behaviors. So at home, let's create a momentum of you have your iPad for such and so time. Because I know you're okay with not having it at school all day. So when you come home, the first thing you're not gonna do is get your iPad. We still on a schedule base. I learn people's
Right.
schedules. Like nap times are big. If your baby is a toddler and they have a nap time at school for this time, it's okay. So on the weekends, keep that same schedule. Okay, you have a
Yes.
nap time now. And things
Mhm.
are like, all right, it's nap time. Like when you get home, pair yourself. I teach all of the parents that are willing to in parent trainings. If you want to learn something, and there, for instance, my daughter goes to daycare.
Mhm.
And her teacher came to me and was like, "Hey, she's very, very smart. She's just having a little bit problem and troubles saying some of her months." And so I asked her. I said, "Okay, thank you for telling me," because a lot of them don't want to tell the parents because they always say the number one thing: "Oh, they ain't gonna do this at home." Oh, they not gonna follow through. They ain't got time because they too busy. They ain't worried about doing this. And then the baby comes back that same week, still struggling with the same thing. And it's like, no, I'm gonna follow through and pair myself with you. You said she's having a little struggle, like struggles. Okay, what are you doing? Teach me what you're doing and with specific words. I asked her, I said, which ones are she specifically having problems with when it comes to saying her months? She told me September through December. I said, okay, what are your strategies? What are you teaching her? And she was like, I'm starting with the minimum of saying the words because sometimes September and October is a hard word to say. I
Oh,
said,
yeah.
okay, awesome. I'll start working on that same structure at home so that she's not into something new. And so that
Mhm.
she's in the same structure. You come home with this and you go to school with this. We all teaching you. I am pairing myself with your teacher in her class. We're gonna get this together. I'm
Yes.
not a person that wants to individualize myself and get all the credit for it. I don't care about that. What I care about is the benefit of my baby learned her months.
Yes.
I don't want to play the
Yes.
stamp on there of like, oh, I'm the one who taught her this. No, baby, we can take that stamp off. I'm gonna pair myself with whoever is her advocate that's teaching her because they're getting a progress to me as a parent. I'm
Yes.
seeing that my baby is learning progress and she's in the rightful place where sometimes it's a struggle. Let me pair myself so we all can get the best results that we want. So I pair myself with parents that if your baby is struggling, let me teach you what I'm doing so that you can take these same structures and like strategic things home. And when they come back and tell me, "Oh my God, we got so much progress. We got so much like literally like leads on it at home," and I'll just be so excited and happy. And I'll be like, "Let's keep that momentum up." Because not only do parents realize they're becoming positive at home as well as they are in school. I can tell you how well and how great you're doing at school. And parents lose and decrease their energy and be like, well, they doing so good at school, but at home we are a completely different kid. So when you take that same momentum and you teach them like, okay, let's go from school and home. And now your baby's doing these in the different places. When you go outside to somebody else's houses, look at all that progress. And that's just from you pairing yourself with the actual therapist, the teacher, getting and wanting to learn these things so that we all can have a great like success with your baby. It don't matter who the stamp is on. It matters that my baby learned this from a multitude of people. And it took
Yes.
all of us together to work to
Yes.
do this. And baby, people don't realize that's the biggest thing ever. If you're gonna pair yourself with us at the schools for it to be taken home, then expect progress.
Yes.
Expect progress, baby. You will not decrease. Expect the progress because not only are you doing it in a place that they're made to learn to like, but you're doing it in a place that they're comfortable with. People don't
Yes.
want to, kids don't want to go to school, but they're made to and they have to. So that's going to always be the place that I don't want to go to school, that
Yeah.
they don't like. But then you bring that same level of energy back home to a place that I'm comfortable with. I ain't got to do all these things. And it follows through. Now you got two places where I didn't like this and I'm comfortable. And my mom is doing this and my teacher, and it's a whole community, baby. And now we done
Yes.
learned how to go potty. We done learn how to brush our teeth. We done learn how to tie our shoes from multiple of the community. It takes a community to raise a child.
Yes, it truly, truly does. And it sounds like too, like what you're saying is that one, the parent just and the caregiver just has to be willing, just has to
Yes.
be open to
Yes.
learn. Yes, to learn those things that from the teacher, from the behavior therapist, whoever the professional is that's working
Whoever,
with their child,
the
being
grandma.
willing and open. Yes, right? Grandma, auntie, uncle, cousin,
Community. Community.
community, right? It is a
Yes.
whole community. So being willing and being open, but it also sounds like too, there needs to be that form of like communication there. So you said that
Mhm.
when your daughter's teacher at daycare said, hey, we're having some struggle with this, you had to ask. Well, instead of saying, okay, thanks for letting me know, and
Walk
walking out
away.
the door, it was
Yeah.
like, well, like which ones? Which months is she having the most trouble with, and how are you teaching it so that I can then take that at home? So being willing and being open and just having that open communication with the school about what's going on so that you can take those things. And that's, I feel like, again, goes to what you've been saying this whole time, also goes to positivity. If I'm willing and
Yes.
open to learn what
Mhm.
y'all are doing with my child, then that means I also have to have a positive mindset that it's going to work. Don't
It's
go
gonna
home
work.
with it like this is not. I remember
Please,
like this.
please
This
don't.
reminds me like really early on in my career. I remember I was doing home based like activities with kids ages like 0 to 3 to make sure they were like developing right on track. And I remember I had a parent that, she said, my baby, she sleep for like maybe 2 hours and then she's up again. And I don't know how to get her on a sleep schedule. And so I had brought these like resources, but we talked through it and we kind of came up with like what would work for her. Because like one thing
Right.
that might work for this person or this child may not work for the next family, right? The next
Right.
household. And so she literally told me out her mouth, that's not gonna work. I said, well, how do you know? If you didn't try it. And she just looked at me like she kept shaking her head like that's not gonna work. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I left feeling like it's not gonna
The
work.
same
You know what I
thing.
mean?
Yeah.
I did this
Same thing.
research and we talked about
Mhm.
these strategies, but mama, if you're not gonna do it, then you're right. It's not gonna work. And so when I tell you, I think I saw her like once a week or something like that. When I tell you the next week I came and she was like, I gotta admit, what you said actually did work. And I literally just sat there like, wow. Cause like I said, I literally left that meeting like she ain't gonna do it. It's not,
Oh,
this
yeah.
was a lost cause. She
Yeah.
ain't gonna do it.
I,
But
let
she
me,
did.
that's another thing too. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
Um, but that is the biggest thing that I've had to deal with. I will say this full year. One of my clients' parents came to me, and she walked in with a negative mindset that school gave her of, oh, my baby can't do puzzles. He can't do sorting. He can't do these things. And being that she's hadn't tried these things at home, so immediately she brought back what the regression of the school gave her. It was like, my baby can't do this. One thing, as an actual behavior therapist, one thing does not matter from one person saying this to the next person saying this. We have to follow through and still give our own actual like request from it. I'm going to try this. Whether I know you're telling me it's not going to work, that's fine. You tried that. Maybe I
Mhm.
might have a different result. So I'm still going to try it, because for one, that's what my job is to do, is to always find a way to be able to progress. But I cannot progress and see what the actual struggle is if I don't try it. Yes, you said this didn't work for you, but this might be a completely different resource for me. That,
Right,
like, that's something that I had to teach her right then and there. Yes, the school might have a struggle with it, but that doesn't mean that I am. I am
right,
confident in myself as a therapist to know that, one, I'm going to try it. For two, if it doesn't work, I'm going to find a way that we can get it to actually work. Whether if I have to start smaller, if I have to start in a certain level, a certain way, if I have to start like that, my baby was struggling with the words, the months. Instead of saying the full September, I started with, let's say and she was able, okay, I was like, oh, let's now say September. And then she kept going. We had to do a 3-part word to actually get the full blow September. I broke it up to 3 structures of words. And at that moment, it became a fun game, because she's like, September. And I was
mhm,
like, yay, bird. And I was like, after that third process, I was like, now say September. And she was like, oh, September. I was like, you see, beautiful. Whether somebody doesn't realize that, like I said before, when I first started, kids are individuals. What they have learned, it might not work for you this particular way. You have to find an actual person that's willing to go the extra mile, the extra challenge. You have to find a person that, I'm going to feed your negativity over here, and I'm going to and decrease it and put my positive in here. Because now I've taught you as a parent that believe in your baby and believe in the actual therapy that's actually around you. If you don't believe in it, your baby will not believe in it. Don't come in here saying what failed. Let's talk about what we can get to work. Like,
yes,
yes, you walked in there with that child, that baby, and was like, well, I know she ain't gonna try this, and which gave you a negative feedback of,
yeah,
man, this parent's not gonna do this. I'm already knowing this. But
yeah,
then you brought that home, and it's like, you know what? Take that out. I'm gonna believe in her. I'm gonna trust that she's gonna actually try it. It's my job to get the energy of both of them to try it, to actually be able to do it. And I see so many parents that have had failing structures on them. It's like a leech. You have so many negative leeches on you, and so many few positive things around you. But one thing about it, it's hard to get a leech off of you. But once you get, I always tell the parents, once you get that leech off of you, don't bring another one back.
right.
So she had a leech attached to her from somebody else, from seeing all the failures. Then she gave you a leech. And it's funny because you threw your leash away, came back to her, and then she had took hers off too. It's like amazing that now everybody is around that with the same progress. And you done taught her, yes, I had the same feeling. I walked out here with a negative thing, but I came back positive that next day. And when you came back and was telling me it actually worked, you see how positive and how great. I know that felt great when
Yes,
she told you that, didn't it?
yes. It was like the atmosphere changed, and I feel like after that, I feel like she was also able to trust me. You know what I
Yes.
mean? That the information that I was giving her, like, this is something that can really be, really be done. And I think that's important too, communication and trust, with your child's provider, as well as, yeah, like you said, being positive. And so I feel like with going through or going back through all these different elements that we talked about, I feel like you kind of probably already answered this, but, I'm going to give it to you anyway. What is one piece of advice you would give to parents looking to enhance their child's learning and development at home? One piece of advice.
Um, I would say do not put expectations on your baby that you are not willing to try.
Mm-hmm.
Include yourself in their learning, in their
Mm-hmm.
actual processing, in their daily routines, in their daily structures. A lot of times we get that whole scale of parents not participating because, like you said,
Yeah.
too many hats, too many roles, too many things like that. Well, include yourself in the progress that you are willing and wanting to see. Don't give them expectations of, oh, this child is doing this, my child is not, or when I was young, I was doing this. It's not the same. Every child is like different. They're like puzzles. You have
Yeah.
to be able to place a puzzle piece at a certain different time. You're not gonna be able to complete that whole puzzle at one time, baby.
Yes.
So don't include expectations on them. And then on top of that, learn your children.
Yeah.
Learn them. And thing about it is we come in and we expecting these babies to learn and to get adapted to us. One thing I'm going to always do is pair with the baby, and literally the very first 2 hours I'm going to pair to learn this child.
Yeah.
They don't know me, I don't know them. So we all have to learn together. Like you said, we got to communicate, we got to interact with them, we got to be able to see what they can and what they're not doing, because I'm going to always try. I'm going
Yes.
to always try. And I always leave with parents telling, the more and more you try, the more and more success you will get, the more and more progress you will start to see. You might fail today, but baby, try again tomorrow.
Yes.
You never know what you start with, and you never know what you'll get. And the thing is that yes, parents, we all wear big hats.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of parents I've met are in denial.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to see the success. They just want us to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They want us to be the ones to carry out and say we did this and we did that. But it's like, I need the community with you as well too.
Absolutely.
Because when they leave with me, they go back home with you.
Yeah.
And all the work that we are doing, it goes out the door when they come back to you. So parents have to be out of denial to understand that we can't do it all. We need help.
Yes.
A lot of us don't want to ask for help, and a lot of us are too independent. A lot of us are too, old school driven, where they think I'm gonna match a tantrum and I'm match a belt with it, or a negative, like aggressive sentiment. And it's like sometimes we don't need that in these days. Let's actually ask for help. Let's take a moment to learn our babies, and let's not put an expectation on. I don't expect my child to learn how to read all these books in 3 or 4 days. I
Yeah.
expect her to process. No,
Yeah.
my baby is very smart. Yes, I know this, but I don't expect her to learn all 12 months in just a couple of days. What
Yeah.
I expect is that I'm going to pair myself with people that can help me.
Yeah.
I'm not a parent that's not like capable of asking for help. I'll ask you for help. I believe in the community.
Yes.
We all
Yes.
here together. Let's match all of us
Yes.
together, because what you might have, I don't have. A
Yeah.
lot of parents don't have this positivity that I'm talking about, truly. And
Yes.
some of them don't start positive. That's
Yeah.
one thing I will say that's big. A lot of parents don't start positive. They get so overwhelmed that they immediately get to negative and just need a break, or they break down. And it happens to all of us. I always tell people sometimes we might need a day where we got to go to the room and just wrap ourselves around with a hug. And that's okay. We are human. We are human. We have to learn different ways
Mm.
and aspects just like the children do. So
So
don't put expectations on ourselves. Don't put expectations on your baby. Learn and will be willing to try.
yes, and give ourselves grace, right? Give
Yeah,
us grace,
please,
give yourself
please,
grace, and give your babies
please.
grace too, when things don't always go, the way it's supposed to go. Because, like you said, we're all human, right? And we're all learning, and it takes trial, maybe several times to get it, right? To be able to learn. And so I'm just, again, so excited about this conversation that we're having. It has been wonderful. And so, one last question, OTJ, before we go, are there any resources that you would recommend for parents who are seeking more strategies for home support?
Yeah, so one thing I would like, the biggest recommendation I would give to is that if your child is in daycares, if they're in school publics, if they're in the behavior network, then I will recommend that you actually include yourself into their actual progress and ask questions like I did. Learn what's going on, learn the procedure, actually be a part of their learning procedure of what that school is giving, what that daycare is
Yes.
giving, what the actual therapists and clinics is giving. Include yourself into that. But, however, for our parents that don't have, access to schools, access to daycares, our community is huge. For instance, you never know your neighbor. My neighbor's a teacher.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and you never know who you're around. And like I said, it starts with you. You go speak. Your baby will learn to speak. Things like that. Our community, you never know who you are surrounded by. There are a lot of teachers. There are a lot of advocates. There are a lot of grandparents. The community is big. Resources come from those who are willing to build up.
Yes.
It starts with the
Yes.
household. You know,
Yes.
we have to teach our babies these resources ourselves. But if we want to get these resources, we have to be able to go out and willing to learn it. Like, for instance, how you and I met.
Yes. Yes.
You are a part of the community.
Yes. Yes.
Next thing you know, we own a whole podcast, and it's like YouTube video, and it's like, wow, it's amazing. Like,
Yes.
that is
Yes.
amazing. And that's a resource. You are a resource. I will recommend you to anybody because it doesn't take to be a behavior therapist.
Yeah.
You are a mother. You
Yes.
are a mother. You are a parent, baby. That's a resource. Talk to
Yes.
other parents. Talk to other
Yes.
parents. Get out in the community. But there are a lot
Yes.
of behavior clinics. There are a lot of behavior like actual therapy clinics for babies with autisms. There are babies with disabilities. Try the schools around you. And one of the biggest things socially is get out there and interact, as far as like in the parks, go, to the
Yes.
actual playgrounds, things like that. That's a recommendation. That's a resource. You never know
Yes.
what you can learn and
Yes.
who you're talking to out there. If you went to the park today,
Yes. So
spend
true.
time with your babies. Take time.
Yes.
Take your time out with the babies, whether it's just an hour to do that.
Yes.
And then on top of
Yes.
that, I want to also say, become a resource.
Mm.
Like you and I are resources.
Yes. Yes.
It's no motive to this besides that we are trying to help people outside in
Yep.
the community, and we're not asking for anything in return besides that, like, hey, supporting each other.
Absolutely. It's so
People don't
important.
realize that you become a resource after looking for resources.
Yes. True, but like you say, we gotta get out there, right? We gotta get out there and have those conversations and introduce ourselves, right? Not just to our
Yes.
child's providers, but to, like you said, the community when you're out at the park, the grocery store, a party that you go to for your
Yes.
child. You don't know none of the parents, but you start to, mingle and talk to them. And so that is such a real thing and one of those things that we don't hear often. And so that is why we are doing what we're doing, to give these
Yes.
resources to parents so that they're able to watch this and replay this as many times as they need to. And so, again, I'm so thankful to you, TJ, for giving us sharing your knowledge and sharing your expertise with us because it was definitely needed in
Thank you.
this space. And so, so grateful to
Thank
you.
you for having me. Thank
Of
you for having me.
course.
Just you doing this is so amazing. I just wanted to like hit the highlight on that because a lot of people are not doing videos and actual, talking about these things. Like I said, and especially in our community, a lot of people are hitting on denial. And a lot of people don't want to be told these things, or a lot of people don't want to hear these things about their babies. And it's something that is needed out in
Yes.
the world. So thank you for doing this and making yourself a resource so that people are able to talk about it, ask questions about it, because it's needed. You gave me a moment now to actually be able to explain all the great things that we do see into our actual neighborhoods and things like
Yeah.
that. And I'm grateful for you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, parents, for watching. And until next time, we'll see y'all later. Bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Pathways to Bridging the Gap series. Behavior Resource and Advocacy Network's goal is to always empower parents, caregivers, and communities with the tools and knowledge needed to advocate for youth in the school setting. Please tune in for further episodes. Please like, share, and subscribe.